Chief Inspector Hans Lucarelli is a former professional tennis player. He had learned to follow his instinct, to anticipate his opponent's game. This quality becomes relevant when two lovers are found dead in an abandoned car park on the outskirts of the German city of Freiburg. The double murder strongly resembles the doing of a famous serial killer never captured. Something, however, does not seem quite to fit. Against all odds, Lucarelli investigates the history of the male victim, Henry Huth. It turns out that Huth had evidence of the involvement of the top management of a giant car firm in a huge fraud concerning diesel emissions. Gradually, the inspector is opening doors that were intended to stay shut. Lucarelli prepared to receive another service as his opponent threw the ball up, took a swing, and hit it with full force. The ball fizzed off the service line like a rocket before hitting the fence with a rattling sound. "Show off," muttered Lucarelli. Shaking his head, he walked to the back of the court to pick up the ball. As his gaze fell onto the adjacent court, he noticed a young woman whom he had never seen here before. Her coach was standing at the net with a ball basket, making her chase back and forth at high speed. Lucarelli watched in awe as the blonde danced across the court. Her legs consistently carried her into the exact position from where she could fire the balls perfectly at the plastic cups set up along the baseline. One by one, the targets were either thrown backward with a dull thud, or at least grazed, falling onto their side in no less spectacular fashion. However, the most fascinating thing about the whole procedure was that the beautiful tennis player didn't even seem to need to catch her breath. It looked almost as if this famous grid training, feared by all tennis players the world over, was nothing more than child's play to her. Even more reason why Lucarelli now wished he was in better shape. The open-air season had already begun a good 3 weeks ago, but he hadn't played once before this Sunday morning. Freddie had been practicing his serve all week. Like a machine, he'd been serving one ace after another, while Lucarelli was incapable of getting anywhere near the ball. Another game had just ended, and the players had to change the ends of the court. They sat down next to each other on the bench by the referee's chair. "Looks like a pro." Lucarelli pointed over his shoulder in the direction of the next court. "At least you still have an eye for that," Weller smirked. Weller's allusion was directed towards Lucarelli's low success rate at returning his serves. The decision on where to expect a high-speed ball must be made in a fraction of a second. There is no time to think. You need an eye to intuitively know how to do the right thing. However, Lucarelli still had an eye for talent. After a successful career playing international tournaments, his father Silvio had trained the junior league and often took him along. "So who is the lemon lady?" Lucarelli asked Weller. "Eileen Carson." He heard the woman's voice from behind. "If it's me you're referring to." The blonde must have picked up a ball by the side fence because she now was standing directly behind their bench. Lucarelli looked into two big blue eyes. He stood up and took a bow. "Hans Lucarelli, nice to meet you." "Lucarelli? Related to the coach from Stuttgart?" she inquired. "My father," he nodded. She looked Lucarelli up and down. "Would you mind playing against a woman?" "They generally offer better odds on an occasional ball exchange than this service machine here." Lucarelli pointed to Weller. who obviously took it as a compliment. At least he stuck his chest out a little bit. "Well," Eileen laughed, "I wouldn't mind a halfway civilized partner right now either. Do you have time later?" Before Lucarelli could answer, they were interrupted by a vibrating, buzzing sound. It came from the referee's chair, where he had placed his vintage tennis bag. The tennis bag has a personal history to Lucarelli. It was a reminder of his father's mastery of a game. A man who had played against the Italian tennis idols Adriano Panatta and Paolo Bertolucci, and was thus respectfully referred to as the Apulian saw after his undercut slice. Lucarelli pulled the phone out of the inside pocket of his case and answered the call. There had been a murder in the forest near Saint-Ottilien. The crime scene was only a few hundred meters from the tennis court. The inspector hurriedly stuffed his things into his suitcase, apologized, and rushed to the changing rooms.